reality show that's 3 dimensions away from Thanksgiving being called The Carver. I'm your host, 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Thanksgiving, released in 2023. Thanksgiving is directed by Eli Roth and is written by Eli Roth and Jeff Randall from a screenplay by Jeff Randall. The movie stars Patrick Dempsey, Milo Manheim, Addison Rae, Jolene Brooks, Nell Vesca, Rick Hoffman, and Gina Gershon. The movie is essentially about a Thanksgiving, basically a tragic accident happens on Black Friday at Right Mart, and so essentially after these teenagers are essentially blamed for leading this riot, inciting this riot that killed a bunch of people. So basically these teenagers start getting picked off one by one by a killer wearing a John Carver outfit in a pilgrim outfit and John Carver mask. And so the movie's essentially kind of like Scream. I see this movie more as a cross between I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scary Movie 1. And I mean that in a respectful way. I like this movie a lot. And I understand that, this movie is meant for the modern generation because it's very technological and everything. But I really think this movie's fun. And I understand this movie is based off of the Grindhouse trailer. Essentially, back in 2007, Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino had made Grindhouse double feature, which had Planet Terror and Death Proof. And essentially, attached to all these movies were fake trailers. One was Rob Zombie's Nazi Werewolves of the SS, and then the other one was Edgar Wright's Don't, and then one was Machete by Robert Rodriguez, and another one was Hobo with a Shotgun, and then this one, and then there was one that I still to this day remember as Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. And so Eli Roth, that trailer was sitting there, and the idea was these were all going to be made into films. And so eventually, through time, but what happened was, 2007, the movies come out, Grindhouse, both movies come out, and they flop in theaters. And so essentially, then of course, the Weinsteins did not want to make these movies, and so afterwards, years later, these movies all eventually got made, except for Werewolf Nazis of the SS and Don't, which Edgar Wright could eventually announce. Don't, I would love that. But the two movies that really stuck in my head, besides, Werewolf Nazis of the SS, was this movie, Thanksgiving. Which, by the way, if you've never seen those trailers, go out and watch them. They're amazing. Especially Werewolf Nazis of the SS. Nicolas Cage is in the trailer, and I'm just like, I don't think they would be able to make the movie the way they were because it's not politically correct in some situations, especially Nicolas Cage's character, this trailer though for Thanksgiving, the trailer was essentially about a guy who was caught fucking a turkey, and essentially his dad killed the turkey and he went nuts, and then he went on a killing spree, and essentially goes to a mental hospital, gets out and goes on another killing spree, and and that was the idea. And he didn't even have a Carver mask or nothing, just wore like a pilgrim outfit and killed people. Well, what happened was Eli Roth, because all the kills are in the trailer, one girl jumping on a trampoline topless and she gets a knife stabbed in her hoo-ha. And then, of course, one guy is getting a BJ and he gets beheaded. And then, of course, a guy at the end serves a turkey with a guy's head on a platter, and then he fucks the turkey at the end. And so, yeah, that happens in the fake trailer. That's all in the fake trailer. And that's like one frame, too. And people are throwing up and everything. It's messed up in that trailer. But yeah, so this movie is not that at all. The movie is very much toned way back. And I even saw one YouTube saying he pussies out. I don't think he pussies out. I'm saying, I don't think this movie would have worked if he would have did that. Because that's more of something hostile. That's more like hostile Eli Roth. This is more of a settled Eli Roth. This is the Eli Roth that's look, I've made hostile. I could have done this shenanigan thing again where I could have done the whole thing where he's fucking the turkey at the end, and there's breast everywhere and there's gore everywhere for just the sake of it. And he doesn't do that, and I respect that because he actually subtlety, like Wes Craven. Wes Craven can do subtlety when he does it, and I feel like I'm sorry people think that this is not me comparing Wes Craven. I think he is a good director. I think he is like Wes Craven type because he literally could have went balls out gore. But he doesn't. He's subtle, and I really like that about him. I love this movie because it's really a cross between I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's very much I didn't think I wanted a sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer until I watched this movie, because there's so many nods to I Know What You Did Last Summer in this movie, to where like a group of friends that accidentally caused people's death, and then on top of that, there's someone that's going around taking pictures of, telling them like, oh, you're gonna die and stuff like that. Instead of saying I know what you did last summer, it's like he sends them video of like a Thanksgiving table, and he's like going after them one by one, and essentially like there's a parade sequence even where they're trying to find who's the killer in the costume is because they know what he looks like. I mean, this was just one of those things that I'm like, seriously, this had me at the edge of my seat, because I'm like, you kind of figure out who the killer is very easy, because there's a couple times where the killer's not there in the, you're like, okay, where's this character at? And then it's not, and then shit happens where like, why isn't he in the scene? Or why aren't the killer in the scene? I'm just like, come on. I mean, it's a very much like one of those where it's not hard to guess who it is, but at the same time, it's a fun ride though, because yeah, I mean, it could be anybody. It does play like it could be anybody, but like it's not really that hard to guess who it is because of who's in the scene, who's not in the scene. It's like kind of that like Scream kind of played around with it because there was multiple killers. There's not multiple killers. There's only one killer in this movie, and it's kind of some parts you kind of like, well, how was this person be able to get this person to do this? And I even thought, well, maybe this is all taking place ahead behind, and maybe this is caught up. That way, this killer could be here at this moment. Nope, it's all taking place at the same time. I'm like, okay, well, that makes no sense. But there's things like that kind of irked me. It's like logically, there's some logic that does not make sense in this movie. Like, okay, the killer essentially is. And spoilers, by the way, if you haven't seen this movie, the killer is the sheriff of the movie. The sheriff, Patrick Dempsey, is the killer. And essentially, the killer, basically, like, there's a parade sequence that, there's 2 or 3 scenes that recreated from the original trailer. Like, for instance, the trampoline scene, except the girl's not topless, instead she's pulling her panties down and showing the guy her ass. And then, of course, the guy gets his neck broken instead of his throat slit. And then, of course, the killer, instead of jumping and going through her hoo-ha, she jumps and goes through her leg and starts stabbing her until she gets stabbed multiple times and then dies. And on top of that, there is one scene, of course, in the trailer where in a parade, the guy gets decapitated by John Carver. But instead of it being in the costume, he's in a clown costume, and it just comes out of nowhere, because in the trailers, they were hyping it up to where like the killer throws smoke grenades out, and then the killer just walks up in slow motion and does it. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be so cool. Like, that shot in the trailer looks so cool where the killer rides. I'm like, that's even better than the original trailer, where I was like, oh, the killer's gonna just walk up in slow motion and do that. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait for that. In the movie, it's just like in the trailer where it's slow mo, it's really fast and just goes, and it's that the killer is wearing a clown costume, to which I'm like, that is a stupid choice. I'd rather him just wear the John Carver, but I understand why, because killer's trying to be in disguise. But I just thought that was kind of stupid. I'm like, but I do think that there are some cool subtleties about the sheriff being the killer, where he will not kill cops. Anyone that he only kills the people that he needs to kill, and those are the ones. Like anytime, like there's a scene where this girl, her and her dad are packing up, and his target is the girl. So the cop, he gets a sniper, he gets a tranquilizer gun, and he shoots one of the deputies, and then he shoots the dad and puts him to sleep. And then when he goes back upstairs, he kills the girl, which he does. There's some brutal kills in the movie too. Like he stabs one girl in the ears, and then basically is like, oh my god, like that the ears thing was all messed up. And there's another one where he puts a girl. The only thing that had me, like, there's a bunch of kills in this movie where I was like, the beheading I was expecting, and the snapping neck I was like, eh. But then like the scene that had me was when he puts the girl in the oven, and then on top of that, he cooks her and then serves her to the survivors of the movie. The killer does, and I'm just like, what? And then cuts off the leg. And and I'm like, he was gonna try to feed it to the dad, the dad who owns the Walmart that the girl he liked would kill. Because spoilers, the reason why he's doing all this because he was cheating on this girl. Her husband was an employee that worked at Roth'S, and then he was cheating on her, and she was gonna leave her husband for him. But unfortunately, she was killed in the trampoline. She was pregnant with his child. So of course, what happened is, so of course, then he took his revenge out on the owner of the store for making them work at Roth'S. And on top of that, he blames like all these kids because these kids snuck into the back of the store because, oh, my daddy owns the store. So basically, like, they're shopping, saying ha ha ha, and all, and basically a riot comes up to the glass door and everything. And then the guy didn't hire enough security, and so basically, like, the girl stupidly is like, oh, they're all gonna get smothered. So they open the glass door, and then everybody gets trampled and get run over. Like, one girl gets her neck smashed by a buggy, and just like one guy gets cut in half, and it's just insane shit that somewhat is accurate and somewhat is really far out there. Like there are some shit in this movie that are very far out there. Like, you know, like some of the violent deaths at the Black Friday, and like some of the stuff, like there's one dude that's a jock in this movie, and he's so dumb, but it's so funny to watch him. Like he's like they get the football game canceled because of the killer, and so he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go play. And they're like, dude, he says, I'm going to play, running out in the field. And he's like, dude, there's nobody to play, dumbass. He's had me laughing. I was laughing. As stupid as this dude. I mean, there's like, you know, there's stuff like that is what made me laugh. And then on top of that, like the kills, like especially the scene where he feeds the girl the leg. That scene was like, oh, I just, part of me, I was like, oh, but another part of me was like, I hope he fucking eats it. I hope he eats it, because that'd be so cool if he ate it. Like, eat it. I was like, eat it, eat it. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool, and especially the reveal at the killer at the end, because it kind of sets up like a red herring, like where you think the boyfriend's doing, like in Scream, but then it turns out it was just a setup by the sheriff because he drugged him and put him in a costume, and so then of course the sheriff, how he gets caught is by his shoes, because his shoes are all muddy and everything in the grass, and so basically he set it all up to make it look like this is all set up and everything to like strategically, and some of it, like him getting hit in the head and stuff, kind of happened naturally, and it was just like, hey, it worked to his advantage though. And I did like how, like, I kind of wish the sheriff would put the costume on one more time at the end, but I thought it was really fun the way he did it, and the kills are freaking awesome. There's great kills, there's a great story behind it, and I cannot wait, especially all those people that survived this movie, are going to be in the sequel, and I cannot wait for Thanksgiving too, because it's going to be so good. And I mean, this movie does have a lot of homage to that movie, but I like that Eli Roth kind of spread it out, and he didn't try to make it like, okay, I'm just going to do Thanksgiving, he didn't try to just shove everything from the trailer into that, because he said, I'm going to tell a new story that's not, because if you've seen the trailer, you'd just be like, okay, is this the BJ scene, or is this the trampoline scene? Instead, like, he only kept like 2 scenes out of the movie, which just, he even changed the whole plot. It's about a Black Friday murder instead of like a guy having sex with a turkey, which I think that's worked for the movie, because if that would have been the original plot, nobody would have liked this movie. It would have been a stupid throwaway movie, like a B film. I really think it's a great film though, and I can't wait to watch this again. There's got a lot of great cast in the movie and everything. If I had to give this movie a grade, I would give it a solid A-. Thank you so much.
It is going to be a very happy Thanksgiving.
Let's see.